Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing fantastic. We're continuing our reading of St. Augustine's Confessions. It's quite an introspective work. And you can see the quality of Christian intellectuals then versus now. And see how greatly it's lacking today. Okay? So let us give justice to him by reading some of his works. We're in Book IV, paragraph 14. I'm going to read you some of the things I annotated. For we admire the persons whose praises we hear only if we believe that they are sincerely uttered. In other words, that the person who utters them genuinely admires the man whom he praises. In those days I admired people in this way, according to the judgments I heard of them from others, not according to your judgment, my God, in whom no one is deceived. But I did not admire Harius in the way that I might have admired a famous charioteer, or a popular contestant in the amphitheater. My feeling for him and others like him was quite different. Okay, so notice something right here. How the people admire someone versus how you judge someone according to if God would approve of them. This is a very potent way to look at it. Let's take a modern example and see how right he is. There are tons of conservative women who post in bikinis. I'm not going to say their names, but they'll wear a cross, post in a bikini, cause men to lust. They're basically just as degenerate as, OF chicks. And they get on a lot of truther shows, and they have very vulgar mouths, and they cosplay as a trad wife or someone who wants to be a trad wife. And then they make cakes and they spill cake batter on their boobs in their super tight shirts. And they basically grift the male conservative Christian audience, right? And when you call these people out, obviously they block you. But when you're pointing out what it is these women are doing and how it's not Christian-like, and it's not actually conservative. It's just as degenerate as the atheists and the liberals and the progressives when it comes to sexual morality and how women should behave, right? And then they use the Bible that, Jesus hung out with prostitutes. Therefore, you can't tell me to be more modest and not create softcore porn stuff for my male audience, right? And it's fascinating just how weak some of the Christian men have become, that they're more a slave to their phallus and simp at the heels of these women than to be like St. Augustine here and say, you know what, I'm being deceived by this person. I like them because other people like them and from my own personal desires, but their behavior needs to change, and I need to judge according to what God would want a woman to behave like. What women are called to aspire to, rather than keep telling her to do, butt pictures and then with a cross on, It's fascinating. It is quite fascinating to see. So I think us as Muslims do that a lot, though. We actually will be like, is this halal or haram? That's what we're going to go based off of, right? Whereas Christians don't really do that as much anymore. They become so liberalized, and their men are so addicted to porn that they have a very tough time, telling women to put her boobs away, right? So there's definitely a lot of deceptions, and those women get a large platform, huge platform. And they really dishonor their husbands, some of them, but it's really just how this fallen world is. He continues, though I liked actors and openly admired them, I should not have wanted their fame and popularity for myself. I would rather have been entirely unknown than known in the way that they were known. I would rather have been hated than loved as they were. That is fantastic. Again, it's so cool when you go through like actual Christian scholars and devout people. Allah knows how his heart was, but you can just see the difference versus today, right? Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes. There was a scandal with T.D. Jakes being at Puff Daddy's, P. Diddy's sex party, right? And it's crazy, the corruption, right? And then there was another part I annotated. Can I then love in another what I should hate in myself? That is so potent, man. Especially for women to say, can you love something that another person is doing, but that if it was in you, you should hate it? Though both of us are human, man is a great mystery, Lord. You even keep count of the hairs on his head, and not one of them escapes your reckoning. Yet his hairs are more easily counted than his feelings and the emotions of his heart. And then I skip down. We can see from this that the soul is weak and helpless unless it clings to the firm rock of truth. Men give voice to their opinions, but they are only opinions. Like so many puffs of wind that waft the soul hither and thither and make it veer and turn, the light is clouded over, and the truth cannot be seen. Although it is there before our eyes, I thought it a matter of much importance to myself to bring my book and the work I had done to the notice of this great man. If he had approved of them, my fervor would have been all the more ardent. If he had found fault, my heart, which was empty and bereft of God's firm truth, would have suffered a cruel blow. Yet I found pleasure in giving my mind to the problem of beauty and proportion, the work which I had dedicated to him. Although I found no others to admire it, I was proud of myself. So really, he's just getting at how his hero, someone who he greatly admired, was going to review one of his works. He cared at that time more about what that guy thought than what God would think of what he produced. And so that's a very honest telling. Okay? In another book, actually another paragraph 15, I annotated this section. I love the peace that virtue brings, and hated the discord that comes of vice. This is potent. Peace that virtue brings, for women especially. When you are modest, when you don't free mix, when you don't use drugs, when you don't seek drama with your husband, when you keep troublemakers out of your home, you create so much peace in your life. And for us Muslims, it would be the virtue would come from following the Quran and Sunnah. And through that, more peace would come. And discord that comes from vice. So, drugs create endless amounts of drama, pain, suffering, and degradation. Porn-addicted idiots cause harm towards the actors who make it and those who view it. And they spread corruption on the earth. And it makes fighting in marriages, it makes women more demonic who accept it. Right? There's all sorts of vices. So, if you want to have more peace in your life, you need to be more virtuous. From this, I concluded that in goodness there was unity, but in evil disunion of some kind. It seemed to me that this unity was the seat of the rational mind, and was the natural state of truth and perfect goodness. Hold on. Whereas the disunion consisted of irrational life, which I thought of as a substance of some kind, and was the natural state of the ultimate evil. I was misguided enough to believe that evil too was not only a substance, but itself a form of life, although I did not think it had its origin in you, my God, who are the origin of all things. I called the unity a monad, a kind of mind without sex, and this union a dyad, consisting of the anger that leads to crimes of violence, and the lust that leads to sins of passion. But I did not know what I was saying, because no one had taught me, and I had not yet found out for myself that evil is not a substance, and man's mind is not the supreme good that does not vary. Man's mind is not the supreme good. Very astute observation. There's another section. Crushed my rearing pride while my imagination continued to play on material forms. Myself, a man of flesh and blood, I blamed the flesh. I was as fickle as a breath of wind. Unable to return to you, I drifted on, making my way towards things that had no existence in you, or in myself, or in the body. They were not created for me by your truth, but were the inventions of my own foolish imagination, working on material things. Though I did know it, I was in exile from my place in God's city, among his faithful children, my fellow citizens. But I was all words, and stupidly I used to ask them, if, as you say, God made the soul, why does it err? Yet I did not like them to ask me in return, if what you say is true, why does God err? So I used to argue that your unchangeable substance, my God, was forced to err, rather than admit that my own was changeable, and erred of its own free will, that its errors were my punishment. So for us, this reminds like Allah is perfect, He's free of need. What we do, it only hurts us. It's only to the detriment of ourselves. God does not err, we err. The paradox of free will and of predestination will always be a mystery. Okay? But the fact of the matter is, we cannot deny that we make choices in life. And we'll make mistakes. But the point is to keep trying to stay within the boundaries of virtue. And to stay away from discord. Okay. And another paragraph. You know this, O Lord my God, because if a man is quick to understand, and his perception is keen, he has these gifts from you. So, as a Muslim, I would contend also that all wisdom comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah guides whom He wills, and intelligence and understanding comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because He can make us deaf, dumb, and blind. He can make us be totally ignorant and astray, and thinking that we're on a good mode of life. But Allah guided us to Islam, and that is a gift. And so we have to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But here we see a Christian view of that similar type of perception. But since I made no offering of them to you, it did me more harm than good to struggle to keep in my own power so large as a part of what you had given to me, and instead of preserving my strength for you, to leave you and go to a far country to squander your gifts on loves that sold themselves for money. So here, just showing how you can use your strengths to further your religion, to further virtue, to combat evil, and to serve your Maker. For what good to me was my ability if I did not use it well? An ability I had, for until I tried to instruct others, I did not realize that these subjects are very difficult to master, even for pupils who are studious and intelligent. And a student who could follow my instruction without faltering was reckoned a very fine scholar. Again, I really found that to be a very potent way of looking at it, of how you can look at using your strengths in a way that don't drain you, but that help you to excel and gain nearness to your Maker. Book V, paragraph 1. I annotated this. Accept my confessions, O Lord, that they are a sacrifice offered by my tongue. For yours was the hand that fashioned it, and yours the spirit that moved it to acknowledge you. Heal all my bones, and let them say, Lord, there is none like you. We would say, oh Allah, there is none worthy of worship except you, right? La ilaha illallah. Heal all my bones. So perfect the bones, make it so embedded within his beings, the fiber of your beings, down to the bones, what makes you you, what props and propels you through this realm, your bones, make them in the service and be fully submitted to God. If a man confesses to you, he does not reveal his inmost thoughts to you as though you did not know them, for the heart may shut itself away, but it cannot hide from your sight. So Allah knows what we reveal and what we conceal, and He knows what's within the breast. Man's heart may be hard. So here you see the same terminologies of a hardened heart, right? But it cannot resist the touch of your hand. So none can resist Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mighty and sublime. Whenever you will, your mercy or your punishment can make it relent. And just as none can hide away from the sun, none can escape your burning heat. None can escape your burning heat. This sounds a lot like what a Muslim would say, right? None can evade the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. None can evade what Allah has destined for them in terms of punishment, right? You cannot avoid His wrath. Let my soul praise you, so that it may show its love, and let it make a vow of your mercies, so that for these it may praise you. No part of your creation ever ceases to resound in praise of you. So that's something that's also unique, is that no part of your creation ever ceases to resound in praise of you. So He's like, creation praises God. We believe that as well as Muslims. Everything is going to worship Allah in their own way, right? I wish I could word it in a way that's a little bit more concise, but we as Muslims would say, you know, that the creation, I'm trying to think of the hadith, so actually I'll just skip it because I don't want to misquote it, but everything in the creation depends upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, and everything is going to, every jinn, every angel, they are all praising Allah in their way that was for them, and that won't cease. As a bird flies, you know, it's almost like it's praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. Man turns his lips to you in prayer, and his spirit praises you. Animals too, and lifeless things as well, praise you through the lips of all who give them thought. For our souls lean for support upon the things which you have created, so that we may be lifted up to you from our weakness, and use them to help us on our way to you, who made them all so wonderfully. And in you we are remade and find true strength. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Because it mentions how the souls lean for support upon things in creation. We do. We rely on meat, dairy, trees to gain wood, to make shelters, ingredients to make concrete, asphalt, marble, metals, water. I mean, just think about snow. We need snow to create fresh groundwater. You go camping, scoop up that snow, melt it, you got water, purify it. We require it. The oceans, bounty, the sun, so much. Very interesting book, I must say. I really have enjoyed this. I've read a lot of this, and it's just here on the channel. I've read a lot of it, and I really hope that you've become more introspective, because that's my intention. Because I am very introspective. I do a lot of thinking. If you'd like to join the blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/melonarchive. Supports the channel, lets me do what I love, and it's because of people like you doing that I'm able to, you know, compete. Whereas most women are showing their bodies and getting massive amount of money for it. Women who use their brains are pushed to the side in the algorithm, right? But you watching these videos helps, you know, even though there's shadow banning, you can't really do much unless YouTube puts you out of that jail. But we keep on keeping on. So let me know what you think, and take care.